Hi, hello to everyone. My name is Marga. Today, with my group, we are going to present uh, the current present of the oil and gas industry with my partners, De La Cruz, Muñoz, and my person, Juana Cruz. We are going to speak about these three main topics: a global panorama of oil and gas exploration, current challenges, innovation, and industry transformation. And I want to all of you see the global panorama of oil and gas industry. Nowadays, onshore or and offshore industry is one of the most important of all over the world because we have because it's needed for all of the energy. And like, are we going to see why are the most consumed? Well, we have one of the highest producers are Canada, United States, Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and these five are the ones that are uh, the highest producers. We can see here a global oil and gas extraction tracker. And as we can see in the map, is all the total oil and gas extraction areas. We have 6,000 of these ones all over the world, and the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Russia dominate the production together, providing nearly 40% of the world oil. Also, it's interesting to see that 71% of the new field startups volumes are located on onshore industry. We can see that all over these years, these industries are growing up for all the new technologies that have been development of all over the years that are happening right now. And this industry, it is need really a big investment and also new technologies that can provide the things that are needed in this field. Well, in the offshore industry, we have 72% of areas that are operating right now focus on United States, Iran, uh, Netherlands, and United Arab Emirates. So we can see here that these industries are growing up for all of these new technologies. Also, it's important to know that the countries that consume the most oil and gas is United States. United States consume a really big amount of these resources to transportation, industry, to create plastic and things, residential and commercial. But the most important of all is to use these resources to create energy for transportation. So we're talking about news. We have how the price is really sensitive of all the things that are happening around the world. Nowadays, we have this news that is from Monday this week. We have the OPEC, OPEC Plus, is trying to make a new strategy that they start in 2024, that they are trying to increase the production all of they can to try to reduce the prices of the oil. So we can see here in this news that the big oil sales show and investments as low crude prices bite. We can see here that for this increase of production is happening that we are having like the need. They are going down the prices, but the problem is that when this happened, they are starting to cut jobs and also reduce investments. We can see here in this graphic that in 2022 we have a peak. This one is from the uh, start of the Ukraine and Russian war. The geopolitical impact. You might think that this one didn't affect the prices and everything that is happening around the offshore industry. It's another part. But unfortunately, like I said, the prices and everything that is happening right now around this thing are really sensitive. So the Russia, Ukraine, we have two news here. We have this one is from this Monday, and I'm not sure this one, the date, but it's also something new. The Russia and Ukraine conflict right now are in make uh, Russia a really difficult buyer or seller. Europe usually try to Europe use or try to export all of the import all of the oil and gas from this country, but right now it's not a country reliable to buy this oil and gas for all of the things that are happening with the war that can increase or stop the production of this. Also, something similar is happening right now with the conflict in Israel and Iran, because the supply has been threatened for this war that is happening between them. So we can see here a graphic that shows how the prices change between these geopolitical impacts or problems that are happening around the world. And it really makes another countries really vulnerable because they usually work and try to have this oil and gas from this country that are a really big producer. So thank you for listening to me. I let you read my words.
Hello, in this section we will analyze the exploration and the current challenge in the oil and gas industry. This section is structured in three main blocks. First, we will review the international outlooks focusing on Guyana, Brazil, and the United States. Then we will address the environmental dimension, where methane and flaring have become the major regularity and reputational challenge. And finally, we will look at the national perspective, focusing on Colombia. The purpose is to show how geopolitics, technology, and environmental redefine the way for the industry and oil industry. Here we have the case of Guyana, one of the most surprising examples in the global exploration. The Strait Brook block went from being a frontier basin that is a basin with virtually no exploration history to becoming a global core asset. This chart shows the production projection in 2025 with the yellow-tailed FPSO starting up. Guyana surprised 900,000 barrels per day and is expected to reach 1.3 million barrels per day by 2027 with the Uaru and Whiptail projects. Here we see the strategic location of the Stradbroke block in the Atlantic coast, very close to key markets in North America and Europe. Let's continue with this video. Even the international press highlights this lead. Guyana, which used a decade ago was absent from the energy map, now rivals traditional producers like Saudi Arabia or Russia. This is a clear example of how resource geopolitics is being reshaped.
This is the One Guyana FPSO, that is a floating production, storage and offloading vessel. It is the fourth such vessel in Guyana's giant Stabroek block, which is currently estimated to hold about 11 billion barrels of recoverable oil equivalent. With this vessel, ExxonMobil Guyana started producing oil on Friday, today, at the Yellowtail project offshore. In a release, ExxonMobil Guyana said, quote, The One Guyana is the largest FPSO on the Stabroek Block to date, with an initial annual average production of 250,000 barrels per day and a storage capacity of 2 million barrels. Oil produced from the FPSO will be marketed as Golden Arrowhead crude. Unquote.
Brazil is now one of the world offshore leaders, thanks to the preset reservoirs. This diagram shows the technical complexity. Reservoirs lie under more than 2,000 meters of water deep, followed by an additional 5,000 to 7,000 meters of rock and sand. This makes operation highly challenging and costly. Despite that, the results have been extraordinary. By 2025, pre-salt already accounts for nearly 80% of Brazil's oil production, equivalent to about 3.5 million barrels per day. The expansion is based on a ROSE plan between 2024 and 2028. 40 new FPSO units will be added, each with a production capacity between 150,000 and 225,000 barrels per day. The flagship fields are Buzios and Mero, not only leading in volume but also in efficiency, thanks to advanced technologies such as 4D seismic, which monitor in real time how fluids move through the reservoir, and integrate reservoir management, where multidisciplinary teams optimize outputs and extend fire life. This is why Petrobras has committed over 70 billion in its 2024-2028 strategic plan, with nearly 2/3 allocated to pre-salt development. The objective is clear: to consolidate Brazil as a global offshore hub, competitive not only in production volumes, but also in efficiency and in lowering emissions per barrel produced. Now let's move to the United States, where shale oil remains the key balancing element of the global crude market. This is a drilling rig in the Permian Basin spanning Texas and New Mexico, which accounts for more than 40% of U.S. unconventional oil production. Its importance lies in being a swing producer, a supplier capable of rapidly adjusting output to stabilize the market. No other country can react as quickly to international price fluctuations. The EIA projects that the Permian will reach 6.6 million barrels per day by 2025, largely due to the use of horizontal wells with extent lateral exceeding 4 kilometers, which increases contact with the productive rock. In addition, operators are implementing simultaneous completion techniques, such as single frac and triple frac, which allow fracturing 2 or even 3 wells at the same time on a single bed. This reduces operation time by up to 25% and achieve cost saving of around 12% according to Chevron. In short, US shale is producing more with fewer rigs, but this pace release on its bed reserves, which are already being depleted, sustain growth. In short, US shale is producing more with fewer rigs, but this pace release in its best reserves, which are already being depleted. Sustaining growth will therefore require higher investments and raising costs in the near future. This slide highlights the main environmental pressures currently facing the hydrocarbon industry. Methane in 2024, the energy sector released around 145 million tons of methane, according to the IEA. Even more concerning, it is estimated that 18% of emissions are underreported, showing a major transparency gap. The second point, flaring. The gas flaring reserve 151 billion cubic meters in 2024, the highest level since 2007. The This means a significant was associated gas and direct impact on emissions. In the third point, the regulations. In response, regulators are moving fast in the European Union. The methane regulation efforts strict MRV and LDAR programs, and by 2030 will impose methane intensity limits for all imports. In the United States, the EPA and BLM have introduced rules that prohibit routine flaring, require mitigation plans, and even allow third-party monitoring of super emitter events. The key message here is that the environmental performance has become a decisive factor for competitiveness, not just a complex issue. Colombia's crude oil production reaches 770,000 barrels per day in 2024. While this marked a modest recovery after the pandemic, it is still far short of the historic 1 million barrel benchmark. The national outlook is heavily reliant on mature fields in the Llanos and Putumayo. This explains the decline in the reserves to production ratio over the last decade, as illustrated by the dotted line in the chart. Shrinking proven reserves mean that without new discoveries, self-sufficiency shortens and the pressure on exploration intensifies. That is why attention has shifted offshore in the Caribbean. Prospects such as Ushua, Tayrona, and Gorgon 1 position natural gas as a strategic transition fuel and a backstop for the power system. Yet, the sector is caught between two opposing forces, attracting capital to sustain deep weather and unconventional plans versus the uncertainty theorized by the government energy transition agenda and limits on new oil contracts. At the same time, Colombia faces an environmental challenge, curbing methane emission by 30% by 2030 under the Global Methane Pledge. During text, given the high flaring and fugitive emissions identified in the Orinoco Basin. In short, Colombia's national perspective blends stagnant production, offshore gas potential, and beating climate commitments. The real challenge is aligning investment, transition, and sustainability without compromising energy security. Thank you.
Today, I want to talk about how innovation is transforming the oil and gas industry, especially in the offshore sector. The industry faces the challenge of producing energy more efficiently while also moving forward with the energy transition. In this context, technologies like digitalization, carbon capture, renewable electrification, and natural gas play a key role. One of the most important changes is digitalization. Tools such as the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and digital twins are now being used. These technologies allow real-time monitoring and prediction of platform performance, reducing risks, lowering costs, and improving safety. We also see projects in CCUS, which stands for Carbon Capture Utilization and Storage. These technologies capture CO2 emissions from the energy production and store them safely underground. In this way, the industry can continue operating while reducing its carbon footprint. Another big step is the electrification of offshore operation with renewable energy. For example, some platforms already powered by offshore wind. This reduces the use of fossil fuels in operation and helps move toward a cleaner energy model. In another hand, natural gas is becoming a bridge fuel. This means that while renewable energies continue to grow and develop, natural gas help to reduce emissions compared to the other fuels like coal or oil. In conclusion, the offshore oil and gas industry is not being left behind. It is transforming through innovation, digitalization, CCUS, electrification with renewables, and natural gas as a bridge show how the sector can play a responsible role in the global energy transition.